Welcome viewers to this series of lectures on Harappan Civilization, and today we are talking of the economy of Harappa and in particular about the public economy in Harappan Civilization. And in the first part of this lecture, I have already explained to you what do we mean by public economy in contrast to the bigger set of which public economy is a subset economy. So, it is important that we understand the public economy component of Harappa at work because we do not have very direct written evidence on the basis of which we can understand the nature of the public economy at work. It is only inferred. It is an inferred assertion that public economy in Harappa was at work. Inferred from what? That we have discussed in the previous part of this lecture. Inferred from the sheer dimension of a structure, from the regularity with which a pattern emerges, which is indicative of some kind of a regulation that must be present in the civilization, or some kind of a central management agency which is regulating it. So, standard weights, measures, hugeness of a structure which makes sense only outside the domain of domestic precinct. Similarly, there are several other units or specimens, say of bricks, which despite disparate areas of their finding betray very standard measurement across the civilization. Again, it is indicative of some kind of regulated economy or managed economy at work, because you cannot leave all these standard findings across this huge geography merely to cultural homogeneity or cultural togetherness. So, it must have required a fair degree of managerial skill that was in operation to make things standardized the way they appear to us. So, it is in this sense that we say that they are all inferred assertions. We have spoken of the standard weights and measures. We have spoken of the big structure, pillared hall at Mohenjo-daro, which must be transacting something of public value, public good. It could be public hearing by a king, by a ruler, and so forth, which are all symptomatic of public economy at work. Now, having discussed all those, let's proceed further. Now, let's look at another part of Harappan economy at work that gets displayed through Harappan jewelry, the inlay decorations. Now, what do we find here? In contrast to weights and measures, which appear to be very standard across the civilization, Harappan jewelry and inlay decorations are not so similar, right? And this again tells us that it might be not a very regulated kind of exercise, or might be not a very regulated kind of economic enterprise that we are talking of with reference to Harappan jewelry and inlay decorations, because it could be and it's very likely that it was all generated by a very minuscule elite consumption. And so, there is a variety in the ways in which these decorations were carried out, because there is no central agency for its supply. It might have been procured depending on the resources at hand and generation of that kind of a demand. And therefore, perhaps this segment of Harappan economy, of which we do have a specimen, so there is craftsmanship, there is fair degree of sophistication at display here, but perhaps it's little difficult to understand public character of economy at work, maybe that it is all fueled by individual demand. And it could be seasonal, it could be occasional, and certainly once it would have acquired repeatedness and some kind of a pattern, then obviously we could expect a fair degree of standardization and similarity here also, which is not the case. Now, moving to Harappan artifacts of everyday utility, and this is in contrast to the elite consumptions like jewelry and inlay decorations. If you look at Harappan artifacts of everyday utility, they appear to be similar, and this attests our assertion that if there is a regularity, repeatedness of demand, and there is a volume, then obviously the structure, the pattern would have been well laid out, and obviously if it is sourced through a structured network of doing things, of managing economy, these will betray similarity in terms of types and variety. So, blade of Rohri chert stones, bronze used for flaking off, artifacts like, over and beyond this, we also have artifacts like the perforated vessel. Now, this is little different because it is not a utility item. Perforated vessel, large dish on a stand, profusely painted pot with S profile vase, which is unusually large. Now, they are found from quite a few sites, but they are not of everyday usage. They are not utility items. They are not utility items because maybe that its usage was on special occasions, and they are artifacts of special occasions, ritual practices, maybe associated with religion, maybe associated with otherworldly fascinations and otherworldly thoughts that Harappans might be entertaining. So, it appears to be of that kind because these are not utility items. They are obviously socially significant, and it is this social function that they are performing rather than utilitarian purpose. So, they are not eating out of it, they are not storing water in this, they are not, it's not every household that procures these items. So, the nature of its usage is a pointer towards what it should be understood as. Whereas, if we look at the Harappan pottery, then there is close similarity in the form and decoration of Harappan pottery across the geography of Harappa. We all know that it is red buff ware, which is painted with black color, which is the iconic Harappan pottery. So, and the fabric of the terracotta is rather thick as compared to the terracotta potteries that we use even today. So, that is a typical Harappan pottery. And since Harappan pottery is a bulk item, it is a everyday use item, therefore, this similarity cannot be due to trade. Now, this similarity cannot be due to trade because every household is using it, and such bulk items cannot be procured through external contact or through one sourcing which is located at a distance from the habitation site. So, quite possible that every habitation site had this facility of making Harappan potteries because they are bulk items, they are numerous in terms of findings, and they are not easily transportable. So, the similarity that we get to see is on account of not public economy, but some kind of a cultural influence out of which similar kind of potteries were made by everyone across the geography of the civilization. Harappan bricks I have already spoken about. Of course, we all know they are of uniform size. So, this again begs this question, like if they are of uniform size across the geography of the civilization, how was it produced? How was it manufactured? I mean, brick making is not something that happens in every household. So, it has to be done near some river or on the river banks, as you can see even in India today, the brick bhattis or eat ki bhatti jo hoti hain. So, that's usually located around an area where water is available, so that the soft soil or mud soil can be used in the mold of a brick, and then it is fired in a kiln. So, how was this? And this is a labor intensive exercise, mind you. So, if the entire length and breadth of Harappan civilization in its mature phase was using similar uniform size of bricks, then one can ask this question, what were the rulers doing to make it uniform? So, were the rulers directing and organizing pottery production? We do not know the answer, but this is a valid question. Scale of people mobilized for production, that also must have been must have been huge, and we do see similar questions being asked of the makers of the huge pyramids in Egypt or several other irrigation facilities in Mesopotamia and so forth. So, was there something of the same kind happening via the rulers, or were the rulers actually mobilizing the huge labor requirement for such uniform brick production? We do not have any answer. Similarly, if we look at the spindle whorls, particularly of wool and cotton, and Harappa happens to be one of the earliest examples the world over, where usage of cotton is attested even from the pre-Harappan layers. So, there is huge variety in material, size, and also design of these items, and therefore, given this variety, given this plurality, one can presume that they were produced individually in the household rather than some central agency producing it, or these or such sites of production being managed by some central agency. Now, this is again very cultural in nature. Even till recently, we used to see particularly the women folk in the household weaving sweaters and doing knitting works, etc. So, maybe that it is of that scale and every household is doing it, rather than there being some central organized facility for the same. Now, this brings us to the critical elements or metals that were used during the mature phase of Harappan civilization: copper, tin, lead, arsenic. Of course, we are talking of the pre-iron times, and all these metals that I referred to, copper, tin, lead and arsenic, they are all very scarcely found in the earth crust, and this we have spoken about earlier. It therefore presupposes an organized long distance procurement. It also presupposes specialists who are working on it, given the metallurgical requirement and chiseling or beating it into thin sheets, etc., modeling into a particular shape. It calls for smelting, which again is a very specialized job. It calls for huge mobilization of charcoal fuel for burning, for attaining that temperature, pyrotechnology. It requires casting of tools and weapons. So, these are very specialized jobs, and these display these artifacts made of these metals display very limited range, and the variations are only minor. For copper items, it is presumed that more than smelting, they were resorting to cold hammering, because iron is available in the earth crust, and if you hammer it and if you beat it into thin sheets, because they are malleable and ductile, so you can straight away start using it without subjecting it to much of metallurgical processes. So that tells us about the state of affairs during the Harappan times so far as metal artifacts are concerned, and cold hammering of copper is something which is economical also, as compared to closed mold and lost wax casting. Now, please remember, closed mold and lost wax casting methods were also used during the Harappan times, or in the immediate period succeeding Harappan period. So they are known to them, but on account of the operations being economical, mostly maybe that they resorted to cold hammering technique for copper items. Now, from Kalibangan, we have the findings of a number of bronze artifacts, and we all know bronze is an alloy of copper. From Amri, we have a few bronze tools, particularly bun-shaped copper ingots, and this is something which is found at other Asian sites in the bottom of high temperature smelting furnace as well. So this again tells us about the transactional capacity or long distance transactional capacity during the Harappan period, and we have some specimen of that. Banavali is yet another site from where we have the evidence of terracotta model of a plough, and this again reminds us of the fact that perhaps usage of metals in agricultural purpose or for ploughing purpose had not still begun during the Harappan period, during the mature phase of Harappan period. Because if you start using bronze plowshare, bronze is hard, but not as hard, which could give you more benefits as compared to good quality wood. So one had to wait for good quality iron plowshare to actually make use of the subsoil moisture to give you benefits in terms of agricultural output. But in the absence of iron, perhaps whatever metals that they were using, it made little sense to use them as plowshare, and they rather used good or specific timber, of course pointed, chiseled, to do the ploughing. So although so far as fishing is concerned, we do have evidence of bronze fish hooks, and that was in use, but for agricultural purpose, the metallic usage as iron plowshare or other metal plowshare is still to come. Harappan metal axes, so far as this particular item is concerned, they appear to be rather undeveloped, not of very fine make, and very few ground stone axes are there, and so that again tells us about the state of affairs so far as axes are concerned. Metal weaponry, weapons made of metals. Now, this is something which is important, because on the basis of the relative absence of metal weaponry, some long unwarranted assumptions have also been made, almost civilizational assumptions have been made. Some argue that this tells us that we were very peace loving kind of civilization, and we did not resort to war and skirmishes because the range of metal weaponry is limited and so forth. So although these are subject to further verifications, I mean on the basis of very limited archaeological remains of metal weaponry, one cannot make such far-fetched kind of assertions. Nevertheless, in history writings we do come across such assertions made on this basis. So, we have arrowheads, few daggers, swords made of bronze, round blade razor edges for slicing of wood. We have chisels and one end of it is embedded in wood, stone saddle, querns and mullers. Now, chisel with one end embedded in wood will again tell you that the hardness of that chisel is in question, because had it been very hard like the chisels, iron chisels that we use today, it does not have any wood embedded for hammering, because iron itself is hard and it can take the hit of a hammer straight away, but perhaps that hardness was not attained by the metals that they were using, bronze, copper, etc. So, they had to embed it into wooden kind of thing, so as to take the weight of hits of the hammer. Copper, which is used in this civilization in a big way, could be sourced from Rajasthan. We all know of Khetri mines from where copper mining is done even today. Shivalik hills can be yet another candidate for sourcing of copper to the Harappans. Oman, Chagai hills in Pakistan, Baluchistan area. These are the possible sources from where copper mining could be done by the Harappans. Tin sourcing, it must have been done from the area close to the Kokcha river, and we all know that at Shortugai, which is close to this area, almost in Central Asia by today's nomenclature. So, Harappans had a trading outpost at Shortugai, and maybe that from this area tin was sourced. Also possible candidate for tin sourcing is Western Afghanistan. Now, it is important to note that the belief held through the 1950s and 60s that impurities of a metal is pointer towards its mine source is fallacious. Actually, people kept remixing copper from diverse sources. Now, this was a practice. I mean, on the basis of metrological analysis of copper artifacts, one could, an archaeologist could tell you that, okay, this copper must have been mined from this part because impurities are of that kind, which is contained in the mines of that area. But as we just said that it appears to be fallacious, because for a long period of time in past, people had been mixing and remixing metals of different sources, or copper procured from different sources from time immemorial. So, this kind of technique is not very I would say is not very true. So, one cannot make such assertions on the basis of impurities that the sourcing was done from a particular area. Bronze tools applications we can see in Harappa from, say, carpentry, seal carving, ivory cutting, bead shaping and drilling. So, these are the operations from where this thing can be attested. Ivory works are at display from Mohenjo-daro. Now, it is only during the mature phase that ivory work appears during the Harappan period and not before. Why? Because the requisite sharpness, shape and a small size could be attained only now, and also the elite demand could be generated only now. So, while ivory was available in the pre-mature phase, but this kind of sophistication and demand, this kind of prosperity could be attained only in the mature phase. That is why we get to see them only now. Then we have soft steatite stones which were used for seals. Most of the Harappan seals are made of steatite, and they are soft stones, so it does not require very hard chisels or material to maneuver through it for bead making or seal making. Carnelian beads of course in contrast are hard and difficult to work on, and they could be sourced from Rajpila and Ratnapur area in around Narmada and Ujjain. We have several clay imitations of carnelian beads, which is again indicative of this being some prestigious object, because people tended to imitate these materials and objects which obviously must have been very pricey. Carnelian also has conchoidal fracture when struck or pressure flaked, therefore not shaping but perforation and polish are a challenge. Actual perforation due to its hardness must be carried out by the dust of some hard material, and Lothal could be the place where they were roasted. So, this hardness, say granite stone. Now, granite stone cannot be chiseled or cannot be made into some sculpture using a copper chisel. So, that requires, because it is a very hard material. So, carnelian is harder. As you can see on your slide, this is the relative scale of hardness, and that tells you the story. Similarly, we have shells, we have faience, which is again representative of high degree of pyrotechnology that they must have mastered, and advanced jewelers technique, particularly of soldering and granulation, that they must have mastered. So, on your slide you can even see the melting points of different metals, and that tells you about the attainment of pyrotechnology by the Harappans, just short of pyrotechnology required for iron smelting. This was the idea today, to let you know about the public economy of Harappa at work, and through these coordinates one can make a better sense of the Harappan economy, particularly the public character of Harappan economy. Thank you.